Rule 1, learn to treat what you say as farting. Rule 2, set standards for others and set standards for oneself in order to have a clear conscience. Rule 3, what you have in hand is yours. Rule 4, the other party is evil, and our own side is just. Once traversing Douluo, Qianjie summarized a series of survival principles. Your Highness, the leader has asked you to come over and has a task assigned to you. Looking at the respectful black-clothed man, Qianjie sighed. He has traveled through time, but the timing of his journey is a bit off. He needs to find a way to infuse the Holy Spirit teachings before proceeding. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Peerless Blood Angel without pop-ups, Douluo. Peerless Blood Angel TXT Complete Collection Download, Douluo. Peerless Blood Angel Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Welcome Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Welcome Collection. The author is working hard to save the manuscript, and the babies they like will be collected and brought home first. We look forward to the future together. End of this chapter. 2. Chapter 2. People in Qianjiatun surnamed Qian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. People in Qianjiatun surnamed Qian. The east is already plain white, and the morning glow is gradually fading into the sky. The village has already begun to be noisy, with the chirping of chickens and barking of dogs, making up the unique notes of rural mornings. Villagers do not have a hobby of relying on their beds. If they dare to deceive the fields, they dare to deceive their stomachs. Most pastoral songs only exist in fantasy. The small mountain village is called Qianjiatun, located in the mountains of Xinhua Kingdom. A small village that is not much different from other villages. If you have to say what is different from other small villages, probably no one can say how long this village has existed here. Perhaps it's long, or maybe it's nearly 1,000 years. The people in Tunli can't remember when their ancestors moved in. Of course, people in Qianjiatun all have the surname Qian, which is quite impressive. But no one can explain why he left a deep impression. Perhaps there was once a big shot with the surname Qian. It is possible to clarify the major sects on the mainland, but no one will pay attention to the village surnamed Qian here. All kinds of people in the Soul Master realm who claim to be descendants of the Martial Soul Hall or heirs of the Angel Martial Soul are almost gathering a hand, and no one is taking it seriously. Just consider it a birdman. A Qianjiatun where a Soul Master has never been out would not attract any special attention. Just a group of civilians. Qianjie, you can't rest yet. In the temple to the east of the village, a white-haired boy patted his cheek, comforted himself and stepped into the temple. The young boy looks young, at most in his teens, and his appearance has not yet grown. He cannot be said to be so amazing, but can only be said to be quite spiritual. What is impressive is that the boy's eyes have always been squinted, and the corners of his mouth have always been raised, as if he has been smiling. There hasn't been much change yet. As the boy claimed, his surname was Qianjie, and he just happened to collide with a battle maniac from a previous life. At this moment, his hand was resting on a brown pillar covered in cracks, with a bright red mark on it. That is blood, my own blood belonging to 1,000 tribulations. The traces left by accidental collisions when I was a child, this blood stain from 4 or 5 years of time is still fresh red, as if it had just been stained. Everything feels like yesterday. Qianjie turned his gaze to the entire temple. It is said to be a temple, but no one has been to Qianjiatun for a long time, and only a half-buried old clan leader will occasionally come to pay respects. It has become a place for children to play and for wild animals to inhabit. It has everything that a dilapidated building should have, including weeds, dust, and broken tiles. Oh, of course, there is also a stone statue located in the center of the main hall. That's not so much a stone statue, it's more like a stone pier, with unclear features and blurred details. It's just a blurry human figure, with 6 uneven protrusions stretching out from behind. Wings. Weapons. I can't say or see clearly. Just a few broken stones on the ground cannot tell what the original decoration behind the stone statue was. No tribute, no incense burner, no wonder the people of Qianjiatun forget it. If you continue to suffer for more than 10 years, your descendants will definitely reshape your golden body. Qianjie bowed to the stone statue. Then, he let go of his mind. In the blink of an eye, the young man's figure had disappeared into the temple. I heard that Jie came back yesterday. It was another morning, and the noise remained, but the content of the villagers' discussion had changed. And the protagonist of the content happened to step into the village. Jie, it's been a long time since we last met. Do you want to come to my house for breakfast? Stepping into the village, the villagers warmly greeted us. No, Uncle Heir, I promised the clan leader to go to his old man's house for dinner today. Why come to my house for dinner or lunch? Jie, it's been several years since I last saw you, and you've become even more spiritual. Is your elderly person having poor eyesight or a lack of vocabulary? How did you use the word, water spirit, on a boy? Qianjie responded with great effort, but it was evident that there was a hint of fatigue in the smile that often hung on his face. In the end, Qianjie seemed unable to resist the enthusiasm of the villagers and turned into the path of memory. There's no need for the evil soul master to cause trouble for the villagers, sighed Qianjie, as the withered and yellow-blue-silver grass on the roadside was hit and kicked all over the ground. It has been almost 10 years since he came to this world, and a senior expert once said. A traveler must have 3 highs. High emotional intelligence, and high luck. Only with these 3 highs can one achieve success and fame in one world. Qianjie is not sure if he has 3 highs, but he is certain that he has at least the same high. High blood pressure. Because this is Douluo, because he is an evil soul master who hates everyone and defeats the flowers. There is a formal establishment of the Holy Spirit Church. Unfortunately, he wore it at the wrong time, in Douluo 10,000 years later. There is no martial soul hall where the travelers gather, nor is there a goddess. However, there is one of the same bloodline as Angel Sister. It's also the official certification type. Being both an evil soul master and an angel bloodline is truly amazing for a lizard. Hey, let's just be an evil soul master, it's better than an ordinary person without any soul power. The troubles come and go quickly, and after thinking about the living environment of ordinary people, Qianjie shivered. Qianjie stood still and turned his gaze to the nearby roof. Come out, senior brother. I saw you now. There stands a middle-aged man with gray-white hair. What did you do? Why haven't you seen me all day and night? The middle-aged man stared at Qianjie with serious eyes. Don't ask. Qianjie showed a smile that had been on his lips all year round, and information about middle-aged people automatically came to mind. West Germany, an 8th-level soul mentor of the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Mentor Group with a somewhat special identity, is the senior brother of Qianjie. Okay, I won't ask. But could you explain to me what's wrong with your martial soul? West Germany looked at the butterfly hovering around. The second awakening of the martial soul. Qianjie took off the gloves he had been wearing all along, with a bright red pattern on the back of his hand. It's blood and wounds. As if it never heals, bright red blood flows through the wound. A gentle breeze blew by, and West Germany instantly appeared in front of Qianjie, grabbing his hand and staring at him intently. As is well known, there is a special type of martial soul on the mainland that can awaken twice. The ontological martial soul. Blood is also the essence of martial soul. But West Germany did not expect that the 1,000 calamities would soon usher in a second awakening. He is just a great soul master. What level of awakening? Since it has already been awakened, studying how to awaken is meaningless. West Germany turned to the level of awakening. As is well known, the secondary awakening of the physical martial soul can be divided into black iron, bronze, silver, and gold, but the gold level awakening is something that soul masters can only consider after reaching level 90. Silver. Silver blood droplets appeared behind Qianjie, and 2 yellow soul rings shone brightly in the morning sun. At the same time, several silver butterflies flew out from Qianjie's back of hand. Finally suffocated out, end of this chapter. Chapter 3 is called Xinhua Dictionary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 is called Xinhua Dictionary. A few silver butterflies danced gracefully around the 2 people on the path, which was really beautiful. West Germany gazed at the silver martial soul behind Qianjie. After the second awakening of the main martial soul, when casting the martial soul, the soul will be accompanied by the awakened level color and a special phantom will appear behind it. In Qianjie's own words, it's called special effects. This indicates that Qianjie did not deceive him. West Germany took a deep breath, then bent down and solemnly placed his hands on Qianjie's shoulders. Remember, hide yourself well, in the environment of your Holy Spirit teachings, you understand. A silver-level awakened blood martial soul master can cause some trouble, you know. Qianjie nodded, of course he understood. The physical martial soul is already very rare, he is still a blood martial soul. Another characteristic of the body's martial soul is that it is stronger for the more important parts of the body, and the importance of blood to humans is beyond doubt. If we really want to leak it out, there are many people in the Holy Spirit sect who want to take it to refined medicine, not to mention the ontology sect. After all, those were a group of evil soul masters, and topics such as sucking blood were not worthy of being discussed after drinking with each other. Has there been any specific change? West Germany then asked. There hasn't been much change, but it has greatly reduced the consumption of my first soul skill soul power, and at the same time, it has changed from a bat to any form. My body size depends on my bleeding volume and soul power. As she spoke, the silver butterfly stayed on the back of Qianjie's hand, followed closely by a small silver snake that twisted around Qianjie's fingers and spat out a bright red snake message. The first soul skill, blood hunting, is a soul skill in which a bat condenses its internal blood and actively attacks enemies. Now it can change anything, the only problem is that even if all the blood from Qianjie's body is released, it may not be able to build any large animals. And a weapon similar to a pistol appeared in the hands of Qianjie, with a high-end and elegant name, Soul Guide. Whisper. A teacher from Qianjie in West Germany, on Qianjie's birthday, cast a gift for Qianjie according to Qianjie's requirements. Bang! Without waiting for West Germany to stop, the soul power of the whispering gun burst forth, piercing through the temple of Qianjie with one shot. There is no red and white bean curd jelly served with sauce splashing, just a blue light passing through the silver liquid. Are there any restrictions? Invincible soul skills and soul guides with invincible effects are not uncommon on the mainland, but they all have great limitations to some extent. Belonging to the inherent characteristics of martial souls, physical attacks are 100% ineffective, and using one fixed use consumes 1/3 of the soul power in the body. The surging silver liquid transformed into 1,000 Kulpa's face. West Germany took a deep breath, consuming 1/3 of his soul power. Is it significant? No, it's not big. Compared to the invincible soul skill that can only be used a few times a day without moving, it's really not big. There is no limit to the number of times a soul guide with invincible soul skills can be used, but after use, the soul guide is scrapped. Compared to the materials and energy required to manufacture the soul guide, 1/3 of its soul power is really nothing. After all, soul masters can replenish soul power at any time, but if not, they can be powered by a bottle. What about your second soul skill? I haven't tried yet, I'm not sure. Qianjie shook his head. Okay, what about your second martial soul? Has there been any change? West Germany didn't continue to ask after hearing this. After all, the second soul skill of Qianjie is not easy to find someone to try. Anyway, he has absolutely no interest in being an experimental subject himself. No, the Xinhua Dictionary still looks like that. Qianjie shook his head and reached out his other hand. A book locked in a long golden chain appeared in his hand. It is the size of a Xinhua dictionary from a previous life, with 4 corners adorned with golden bumpers and intricate patterns swirling around it. At first glance, it is like opening a book that can educate others, and closing it can also educate others. Although he still can't open it now. Damn it, don't you really consider changing the name of the martial soul? It sounds so nice to call it Tianshu, Xinjian, and so on. West Germany frowned, and the name Xinhua Dictionary was not a serious name at first glance. Naming the martial soul has never been so casual before. Besides, the Holy Spirit sect doesn't allow me to cultivate this martial soul right now. It doesn't matter what name it is. Qianjie remained non-committal, as he never had the attitude of a Douluo person treating martial soul as his own. It's just a useful tool. Junior brother, can you change your strange attitude towards the martial soul? It is a soul projection that a soul master relies on for survival and will accompany him for a lifetime. Obviously, Qianjie's strange attitude towards the martial soul cannot be concealed from others, and he did not intend to hide it from those around him. Qianjie didn't speak, just withdrew his martial soul and put on gloves again. With the attitude of you continuing to say, I guarantee that the left ear goes in and the right ear goes out. You have to let go of your strange attitude towards the martial soul. With your innate soul power, how can you be a great soul master now? Seeing this, West Germany continued his daily chatter. Born with full soul power, one is a great soul master before the age of 10, which sounds like a normal cultivation speed. But Qianjie is a soul master with the official organization of the Holy Spirit sect, and he is still of a high status. In addition, he is also a disciple of a 9th-level soul master of the Sun and Moon, so this speed is very slow. The Empire of Sun and Moon and the Holy Spirit cult never lack strange means to enhance their soul power level. Senior brother, don't stand and talk without hurting your back. You don't know what's going on with my martial soul. How can you make me believe it? I might as well condense my soul power honestly. Qianjie spread his hand and said, the thinking of the transmigrator brought by his past life is on the one hand, and on the other hand, his blood and martial soul are like transmigrators that must have some uniqueness. There's a problem. In short, his blood and martial soul have some small ideas of their own, but they are still the kind that cannot be communicated. Junior brother, it's normal for you to have a defect in your martial soul at most. There are legends in the history of martial souls with self-awareness. Why do you have to be stubborn? West Germany tried to persuade him, but then he seemed to react and his eyes suddenly lit up. Junior brother, your martial soul has awakened again. The martial soul problem must have been solved. Unfortunately, I have disappointed you, senior brother. I still cannot restrain my instinct to retrieve the used blood back into my body. The bloodthirsty impulse did not disappear, and looking at the blood vessels, I still wanted to take a bite. Also, let me correct your statement. In the legend of soul masters, there are indeed martial souls with self-thinking, even naming in naming. But senior brother, you understand what that is. In fact, there are no examples of martial souls with self-thinking yet. Without the expected answer, West Germany was inevitably somewhat disappointed, but this emotion came and went quickly. Strictly speaking, having a problem with the martial soul is not a big deal. Even the title holders within the Holy Spirit sect can be said to have a problem with the martial soul. New book seeking support and recommendations. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Let's go kill someone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Let's go kill someone. We won't delve into the issue of the martial soul anymore. Now I want to ask you another question. West Germany gave up persuasion, and Qianjie's strange attitude towards the martial soul has changed for quite some time now. Many people have advised that there is someone in the Holy Spirit Church who does not know, but in the capital, as far as West Germany knows, their common teacher, such as Su Tianran, has also advised. I haven't seen any improvement in Qianjie. He has his own set of statements that appear to be twisted and heretical to the Douluo people. No matter how many martial soul techniques there are, it's better to have one round of explosions. If there are, then let's have another round. So Qianjie spent most of his energy on soul guides, and soul guides did indeed waste a lot of energy in the early stages. If others cannot persuade him, he will no longer stop him. Qianjie's actions are not a big problem. His innate full soul power and twin martial soul talent make him a title-strong person, which has nothing to do with his attitude. As long as he is not completely idle and not practicing, it is only a matter of time, it is just a matter of time. Let's ask. Qianjie raised his eyebrows, thinking that the martial soul issue that others thought had little impact was too big. He is soul-piercing. Although he grew up as a baby, he has all the experiences he should have, but who knows whether it is to give up or be reborn. Rebirth is just a flaw in the martial soul itself, a unique feature of the transmigrator. If it's taken away, it's a great joy. Martial soul is something born under the dual influence of soul and body. Who knows if this self-thinking martial soul will be a remnant of the original soul of this body. Unfortunately, it still cannot communicate. The stronger the martial soul, the greater the hidden danger. Junior brother, are you sure that according to what you said, this village where you grew up is fine? West Germany looked at the adobe house, behind which there was a group of villagers chatting, and from time to time, laughter could be heard on this small path. What problem? Of course there is a problem with Qianjiatun, but Qianjie cannot shout loudly everywhere, and others may not take it seriously either. Smile, West Germany whispered, as if afraid of disturbing someone. Tisk, senior brother, you have been too lenient with the aristocratic management of the sun and moon. Do you still not allow others to laugh? West Germany didn't respond, with grey eyes staring at Qianjie. In the end, Qianjie did not turn his head. Let's go to the clan leader's house for dinner first, and then we'll go to Xinhua City. Qianjie crossed West Germany sideways. West Germany stopped asking and turned to look at the villagers who were still talking. The laughter of talking to each other echoed in his ears with the morning breeze. Is there a problem with the smile? No matter how powerful the power of soul masters and nobles is, it cannot be stipulated that civilians are not allowed to laugh. Can ordinary people, or a group of farmers in the mountain village, laugh out loud? West Germany is unclear. As a sun and moon person, a soul mentor, he only knows that the common people circulating in various soul mentor factories within the capital rarely laugh. They always have a hurried and tired expression on their faces. People outside the capital also rarely laugh, and facing the three soul master empires that have been passed down for thousands of years, the sun and moon empires are not easy to live. Having the sound of breathing is already very good, how could one force laughter, said Su Tianran, the crown prince. So, can you laugh in the star land, which is said to have a heavier burden? Before colliding with Douluo continent, the common people inside the empire probably laughed the same way, right? Laughing happily and beautifully like a smile that doesn't belong to this era. Finally, gazing at the costumes of the villagers, West Germany lowered his head and stopped thinking about the issue of smiles. The chieftain of Qianjiatun is an old man with white hair and beard, and also the village chief of Qianjiatun. It is a miracle on the Douluo continent that an ordinary person at this age can cook with ease. Are you living well outside? On the table, there were 2 bowls of porridge. The old man sat opposite Qianjie. West Germany was not used to eating farm food and went out to hang out. Very good, at least the breakfast is not porridge. Chopsticks stirred the porridge, and thousands of people leaned on their heads with one hand, sleepy. Porridge has wronged you. The old man raised his eyebrows. I haven't learned my fart skills, but my mouth has become more cunning. If you can't get used to it, just roll away. Some people want to drink my old man's bowl of rice soup but can't even drink it. Qianjie stopped talking and poured porridge on his head. He couldn't bear the anger of the old man. It doesn't taste much. It feels the same as when I was young. Has the soul bone been absorbed yet? The old man suddenly asked, looking at the boy who was drinking congee. Old man, you don't understand what soul bones are. Why are you asking? Qianjie put down his bowl and came back to absorb soul bones. Therefore, when he went to the temple, his martial soul awakened again because of soul bones. Old man, can't I ask? The old man's eyes widened. Absorbed, this time it's the head soul bone. The soul bone technique is called disguise in layman's terms, but in reality it's called a dream butterfly. Qianjie immediately acted obediently like a cat. It doesn't matter what name you call, as long as you like it. The old man stood up from the chair and nodded in satisfaction. Since you have absorbed everything, go ahead and do whatever you need to do. The village cannot entertain you, the soul master. By the way, remember to burn incense on your parents' graves before leaving. After speaking, he trembled and walked towards the door with a cane. The morning sunshine shone on him, golden. He looked up to enjoy the sunshine, showing a satisfied smile. The wrinkles on his face moved like feathers carrying light, carrying time as well. The feather of time brushes over the river of time, caressing a vast sea of stars. In the mottled depths of time, he hears the opportunity for hatred and ideals to bloom. The tomb of Qianjie's parents is not far from the village. Countryside people don't have much room to talk about feng shui, and Douluo people don't talk about it either. Just find a piece of land that looks beautiful and picturesque. Due to the picturesque terrain nearby, most of the deceased surnamed Qian are buried here. It's so crowded, and I'm not afraid of the evil spirit master digging up the body. Qianjie found the grave of his parents and gently roast. As the only soul master in the village, his parents' graves are easy to find. There is a stone tablet, surrounded by stones, and the decoration is significantly higher than the surrounding small tomb. He was also a small tomb before becoming a soul master, so it should have been renovated. Evil soul master shouldn't be so idle. West Germany followed suit and, after speaking, also lit a stick of incense. Although evil soul masters like to dig graves and dig corpses, they don't require all kinds of corpses, let alone all the graves on the mainland. Qianjie remained silent, quietly burning incense and paper, and then clearing the blue-silver grass that was already half a person high from the grave. This thing is really annoying, you can see it everywhere. Tell me, what's the point of writing letters all the way to Master Mingdu? After Qianjie finished his work, West Germany finally spoke up. It's really far from Mingdu to Xinhua City. I need a backup assistant for a task. Tell me, what task? The Holy Spirit Church has many tasks, and most of them are difficult. Kill an ordinary person. West Germany turned around and was about to leave. An ordinary person asked him to rush from Mingdu to Xinhua City. She is in the White Tiger Duke's mansion. West Germany stopped again and said, "What's your name?" Hui Yuner. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Soul Master is not a cultivator. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Soul Master is not a cultivator. Assassinate Hui Yuner. How do you think it's all a flawed task? Is it okay for an ordinary person to stay in the White Tiger Duke's mansion, take care of their children, and do heavy work, which hinders what the Holy Spirit teaches? But think about it, this is a mission issued by the Holy Emperor in the Holy Spirit Church, and no one within the Holy Spirit Church has any objections, even treating it as the highest level mission to be executed. Qianjie also feels that there is nothing wrong with it. After all, the Sodat called Holy Emperor and the big eyeball next to the headquarters of the Holy Spirit Church have no special relationship, nor have they had any connection with the abyss 10,000 years later. This Holy Emperor, who is often talked about by the people of the Holy Spirit Church, is now known only by another senior member of the Holy Spirit Church, and only by passing through can one realize the name of the problem. Shura. As for why the Shura god, which has never appeared in legends, became the object of worship in the Holy Spirit Church, who knows? It is reasonable for the Shura god king to want to kill the biological mother of the legendary son of Qiyun. How to train a dog without killing, and how to give the same bed pendant when the other person is most lonely and helpless. Destroy the opponent's psychological pillar, timely send other psychological pillars, and finally grasp the key points. This script is very familiar. Qianjie didn't really want to delve into the causal logic behind it. He only wanted to make a profit from this task, so he took on the one that was said to have killed many people in the Holy Spirit Church. The three perspectives of the traveler are indifferent. He can survive the most in the vast world, but his special identity means that the divine king, who is high and mighty, is unlikely to like him alive. The angel descendant who quickly gathered a hand on the mainland did not take the angel's soul bone set. And let the son of Qiyun continue to walk normally, and as a candidate for the Holy Spirit Church's holy son, there is not much chance of survival. It is uncertain when he will become a stepping stone and die in an explosion, becoming a small villain without a name. Kill an ordinary person in the White Tiger Duke's mansion, why would your Holy Spirit sect go crazy? Holy Spirit sect and Qianjie think it's okay, but outsiders must think that Holy Spirit sect is a bit sick. For example, West Germany. Senior brother, you should have heard of the rules of the Holy Spirit sect. Revealing a name is already the limit. And after the task is completed, remember to throw this matter into the sewer while paying attention to safety. Qianjie tried hard to lift his hand and patted West Germany's shoulder. He was shorter than West Germany. Upon hearing this, West Germany opened his mouth but ultimately didn't say anything. He has heard of the rules of the Holy Spirit Church. Issue a martial soul oath before executing a mission, and the specific method depends on the situation of the mission. The Holy Spirit Church has never been an organization united by love and faith, but a criminal group forged together by blood and martial soul vows. Don't think too much, senior brother. I just asked you to come and cover it up. I can't say that if you play around in Star City, my mission will be completed, comforted West Germany, and Qianjie took the lead in heading toward Star City. As the capital of a country, there are a total of 7 Holy Spirit strongholds in the city of Silla, either openly or covertly. Why does an empire that fights and kills evil soul masters actually have more Holy Spirit cult strongholds in the capital than in Mingdu? In one sentence, Xinhua City needs an evil soul master and black gloves. Evil soul masters are very useful. Anyway, they are already dark enough, and even the darker ones are not a problem. The colleagues of the Holy Spirit sect in Xinhua City never lack work. The Holy Spirit Church will not turn a blind eye to a former royal or divine family with a heavy army. The intelligence of the White Tiger Duke's mansion will always belong to the powerful faction of the Holy Spirit Church, along with the intelligence of Shrek and others. Especially after nearly 3 years of being responsible for assassinating Huiyuner, the third elder of the Holy Spirit Church, Minglei, the intelligence about the White Tiger Duke's mansion will only be more extensive and detailed than the current Su family of the Star Luo royal family. Your Holy Spirit teachings are really. West Germany exclaimed heartily as he looked at the building called Moon Pavilion, in front of a group of men who had no entry or exit. He knew that the Holy Spirit Church was very crazy in the territory of the original Douluo 3 kingdoms, but he didn't expect it to be so crazy. The stronghold is just outside the blatant imperial city, and the entire building is not impressive, even higher than the Xinhua Palace. Not accepting is not acceptable. At least there is no building in Mingdu that dares to be as high as the Sun and Moon Palace, except for the Mingda Hall. It's not exclusive to the Holy Spirit Church. Qianjie shrugged and stepped into the aristocratic ceremonial academy called Yuexian. Yes, there is no fault in the etiquette of the staff at the Noble Etiquette Academy. But in actual work, just look at the men in the building who are dressed in traditional Chinese clothing with a subtle smile on their faces, and you will understand. Oh, not only do men embrace women, but there are also a few middle-aged women who embrace shy, old-fashioned aristocratic men. It can only be said that the scope of work is really broad. Tell me, who else does this so-called etiquette academy belong to? West Germany eagerly asked as he entered the private room. It is obvious that no matter how strong the Holy Spirit Church is, it is impossible to open such a place to teach etiquette in Star City and still open it, so look at its name. Yuxian, what's wrong? West Germany's face looked puzzled. Within the territory of Douluo continent, there are dozens of Yuxian that operate the same business, some of which, like this one, are taught by the Holy Spirit, while others are not. But without exception, at each deadline, they will pay half of the profits to a certain sect. On the contrary, this sect will provide shelter for these Yuxian and have the confidence that no one dares to cause trouble. What sect? West Germany realized that his doubts had been increasing since entering the realm of Stara. It's hard to say, I can only tell my senior brother that there is also such a moon pavilion in Shrek City. The Star Luo royal sect cannot afford to provoke, and Shrek's sect is also closed. You can guess for yourself. Qianjie closed his eyes and began to fall asleep, and West Germany suddenly realized with a cold smile. At first, Qianjie was also surprised by the existence of Yuxian. Even Nima has disappeared, why do you still work in this disgusting industry? Later on, I realized that it was really reasonable. What else would that group of people do besides forging iron and selling so-called noble etiquette? Let them make a living by forging iron. Don't make a fuss. Where is the blacksmith association today? How much does it cost to make iron for a year? As for the hidden world, what slogan did they use to trample on the agreement with the Marshall Soul Hall back then? Isn't it just being confined to a corner of the mountain and feeling too humiliated, seeking revenge? Oh my God, before winning, I'll hide in a corner of the mountain, but after winning, I'll still hide in a corner of the mountain. Isn't that for nothing? Not to mention, the so-called hidden world also requires costs. A group of people huddled on the mountaintop to practice and sleep, but they were happy. Drinking the northwest wind. Soul masters are not cultivators, they cannot make food, drink, and do. At least, it is impossible to obtain titles below that level. Even if it is a divine sect. I just don't know how many titles can be offered by dozens of Yuxian, even though they offered 7 titles in a month. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 3 brothers equal to 3 brothers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. 3 brothers equal to 3 brothers. The hazy clouds slowly spread over the golden sunlight, and along the gaps in the clouds, glimmers of morning light poured down. Through this well-lit private box window coffin, the light and shadow were cut in half. Half of the private box was dazzling light, and the other half was the shadow of the window coffin. Qianjie sat at the junction of light and shadow, half of his silver hair shining brightly in the sunlight, and half hidden in the shadows, like moonlight. In front of him, there were paper documents that were about to catch up with others. It's really a mess. Rubbing the temples to relieve the tired eyes caused by staying up all night, Qianjie sighed. It's not that the intelligence is chaotic, the staff in the Holy Spirit Church stronghold are still very diligent and even thoughtfully attached an index. The cost of fishing within the Holy Spirit Church is also expulsion, but it is expulsion from the ranks of the living. But the White Tiger Duke's mansion is very chaotic, and it has already surpassed the legend of empresses in the palace. The White Tiger Duke's mansion, which covers an area of 3,000 acres, is not small, and the entire Star Luo Empire does not have its large mansion. The same size as the Star Luo Imperial City. But it's not big either, because most of the Dai family members of the White Tiger family live in it, and because Dai Hao did not have a fiefdom, these 3,000 acres of land are equivalent to his fiefdom. With a duke's title, there are only 3,000 acres of land, which is really small. On the 3,000-acre land, there are the White Tiger family led by Dai Hao, the royal faction led by Duchess Su Jiuli, and some traditional factions united by the Zhu family. Of course, the stability of the White Tiger Duke's mansion has little to do with the thousand calamities. He is only here to carry out tasks, not to play with the grievances of wealthy families. However, the status of Hui Yun'er's mother and son in the White Tiger Duke's mansion is somewhat different from what I imagined. A thin piece of paper was placed in front of Qianjie. Among the piles of intelligence, there is only one piece of information about Hui Yun'er's mother and son, and even on paper, there are only portraits of the mother and son, as well as their positions in the White Tiger Duke's mansion. Too little. Hui Yun'er is just an ordinary person, and now Hui Yuhao is only a little transparent with innate soul power. At the same time, their mother and son are also targets of the Holy Spirit sect, so theoretically, intelligence cannot be so limited. It's not that the intelligence personnel of the Holy Spirit Church are not working hard, nor is it that the unlucky person who performed the mission before was too foolish. It's because they can't get in touch with Hui Yun'er's mother and son. They are in layers of protection, or in other words, surveillance. Tut, no wonder Hui Yuhao practiced the skill of roasting fish, and Huanazi hid Xiaobing, baked cake and griddle. Qianjie leaned back on his chair. In his past life, he had many doubts about Hui Yuhao's childhood life, but now he has answered some of them. Hui Yuhao's mother and son lived a miserable life in the Duke's mansion. Where did Dai Hao, who loved soldiers like a son, and his guards who were said to have a separate residence in the Duke's mansion die? According to the style of Dai Mubai and Dai Hao, there must be many members of the Dai family. Where did the members of the White Tiger family die? As a result, in the past decade of life, only a mother and son named Daluolai, who were almost as miserable as their mother and son, helped each other. How poor was Hui Yun'er's popularity? Don't say anything, the Duchess won't allow it. Is it difficult for the Duchess to move a chair and stare at Hui Yun'er all day? Dai Luoli's mother and son can help, but others cannot help. No matter how domineering the Duchess is, she can still suppress Dai Hao's personal guards and dare not move. As well as the Grand Duke's mansion, apart from Dai Luoli, no one actually recognized Hui Yuhao, even though it is said that Dai Huabin was one of the culprits behind the murder of Hui Yuhao's mother. Does appearance change due to growth? Where can a teenager change? Growth is a gradual process, and it's unlikely that Hui Yuhao's appearance will change overnight. Did he take growth hormone to undergo plastic surgery in a certain universe? The answer is out, because others cannot get close. There are only Hui Yuhao and Dai Luoli's mother and son nearby, and almost no one in the Duke's mansion has come into contact with Hui Yuhao's mother and son. That's not so much a firewood house as a specially designed cold palace. There is also a question that has been talked about in previous lives. As a legitimate wife, the Duchess fell ill and targeted a concubine and a child with poor talent. Even if targeted, it would be troublesome to kill Dai Hao even though he hasn't returned home for several years. Jealousy. Dai Hao hasn't been home for several years, why is he jealous? Why don't two women just make do with it and live together? May it threaten her son's status. This is farting. What can Dai Yuhao's innate soul power and martial soul pose a threat? On the other hand, Dai Luoli, who has a mutated martial soul, is actually more threatening. Nazi, what Nazi? West Germany, lying in bed beside him, sat up in shock from his dying illness. The veins on Qianjie's forehead jumped visibly with the naked eye. Senior brother, it's okay if you don't help. Why do you still want to experience the service quality of next month's Qian? No, it's just a dream talk, so as not to let the master tell me to teach bad children when I go back. West Germany woke up and quickly waved his hand. He's not that bad at doing this with a 10-year-old child. Don't worry, there are all age groups in Yuexian, including men. Even half-orcs and soul beasts are there. Senior brother Bao, you're satisfied. Qianjie looked at West Germany expressionlessly. What? Is it difficult to say that there are transformed soul beasts here? Obviously, West Germany's focus is not on other plots, because it is too common. There are no moon halls in the sun and moon regions, but there are many similar aristocratic etiquette teaching places. You've overthinked it, there's nothing that can be transformed except for the unique soul beast bloodline. There are plenty of things like Titan apes, golden armored lizards, and winged baboons, but the course prices are very high. West Germany's face turned green and white, which was a bit too superhuman. Thanks to the scarcity of soul beasts within the territory of sun and moon, he can only say now. Alright, hurry up and get out of bed for me to sleep. I have to go out in the evening, and I will contact you if there is anything I can help with. Then you can go to the courses you want to learn on your own. Qianjie pulled West Germany up and collapsed on the bed. Junior brother, are you true? West Germany turned back incredulously. What do you think? Qianjie closed his eyes. He is telling the truth, there is really everything. Don't overestimate the moral standards of the Douluo people. The aristocrats of Xuelan Star, who have been around for hundreds of years, have fallen into disrepair, let alone the Douluo family, which can easily last for thousands of years. Third brother is equal to third brother, there's nothing to say. But he could only watch as it took immense courage to lend a helping hand to others. He was just a great soul master now. If you don't want to attend class, please do me a favor. I have put the intelligence of my disguised target on the table. Senior brother, please take care of it. He is currently in the moon pavilion. Seeing Qianjie close his eyes, West Germany stopped asking and came to the table. There is a piece of paper lying on top. Dai Yongfeng, 25 years old, level 18 soul master, martial soul white tiger, constantly lingers in the fireworks land of Xinhua City, and has no interpersonal relationships within the White Tiger Duke's mansion. West Germany's eyes were full of confusion, but he turned to look at Qianjie, who had already fallen asleep, and still walked out of the private room, gently closing the door. He believes that Qianjie would not be so reckless. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Soul Bones with the Most Chicken Ribs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Soul Bones with the Most Chicken Ribs. Dai Yongfeng's ending will not be very good. West Germany is a normal soul mentor, but he doesn't care about the lives of the Stara people. 1,000 tribulations. He can only care about his own life now. When signing the agreement in Geneva, the Douluo people were not called in, and they did not enjoy protection or need to comply. It was dusk again, and the drunken drunkard with blonde hair walked out of the moon pavilion. He wobbled step by step and called for a carriage. Before the gate of Xinhua City closed, he left Xinhua City and headed northwest. Then, in the contemptuous gaze of the palace guards, he checked his identity and walked into the palace. No one checked, no one realized that there was a different person under that face. Qianjie had to absorb the soul bones of the head to execute the mission. Apart from awakening the martial soul for the second time, this is the reason why this mission inevitably requires disguise. Angelic inheritance soul bones have their own effects, and without exception, they are all very strong, making them the soul bones that other soul masters dream of. The skull absorbed for the first time has a skill that was considered mediocre when reading the original work in 1,000 lifetimes ago. Disguise. Based solely on past life memories, it is not even considered a chicken rib, it can only be said to be a waste. Compared to the head soul bone skill of the Tang family, which can easily attack with super strong spirit, a soul bone that requires a similar martial soul to be used is truly a legacy bestowed upon future generations by a first-level god. Not to mention the so-called disguise later on, which is a matter of being slapped in the face. It can be solved by just wearing a skin mask, and one must occupy a soul bone skill position. There is not even a 100,000-year limit for the rotten streets. Until Qianjie himself came into contact with the so-called angel inheritance soul bone chicken rib fart, this is an incredible skill. On Douluo continent, both human skin masks and camouflage skills such as simulation have a flaw, which is that soul masters who exceed their own level too much can see the problem at a glance. And the head soul bone in the angel inheritance soul bone does not have this defect. Even if it reaches its limit, it will still have to scratch. A certain angel has been swaying in front of a group of titles with it for years and no one has noticed any problems. Even its own skill is not called disguise, it is called a dream butterfly. With the help of a heart, one does not sink into dreams. The effect is not just about disguising people with similar martial souls, it can disguise anything, air, animals as long as you want it, there is nothing that it cannot disguise. In other words, this is an ultimate assassination skill. This is truly the inheritance of angels and gods. What is the age of 9,999 years? You can smile. Artificial soul bones can only reach this age limit, but they are a god. However, this overly abnormal disguise still adheres to the consistent style of angel inheriting soul bones. The amount of soul power determines the effect. Qianjie is now using it to disguise Dai Yongfeng, who is 2 heads taller than himself, as it is already the limit. As for a certain angel who used to use such a set of divine skills thousands of years ago, but only showed a useless disguise effect, it can only be said that personality issues and the collapse of the Tang family's logic have a strong halo. Madam, Dai Yongfeng has returned. In the central courtyard or palace of the White Tiger Duke's mansion, the maid quietly woke up the Duchess Su Jieli, who was resting. A very ordinary name, even somewhat too plain. Her identity is not ordinary, she is the most beloved daughter of Emperor Xinhua and now the Duchess. Which family bit the bait again this time? Su Jieli's tone was a bit playful, as if she had long been accustomed to it, without being disturbed by anyone's restlessness and anger in her sleep. I don't know, but based on his performance from beginning to end, it seems that he has already been replaced. The maid's eyebrows and eyes also showed a hint of smile, and his goal is the same as those before. Huiyuner mother and son. Dai Hao is not finished, is he? Su Jieli rubbed her temples irritably. Forget it, go deal with him and remember to keep your hands and feet clean. Yes. The already red ladybugs appeared crystal clear under the moonlight, emitting a faint red fluorescence. They wandered twice on the back of Qianlu's hand before finally disappearing into the red veins. I don't know if my combat style of releasing blood and then collecting it will lead to infectious diseases. Looking around at the environment that was not considered hygienic at all, Qianlu's disguised smile remained unchanged, but her mood was not very beautiful. How to put it, the chubby abode of the deceased in his past life was probably cleaner and tidier than Dai Yongfeng's bedroom. The table was covered in dust, and there were scattered things in the corner of the wall. Through the moonlight in front of the window, a few mice could still be vaguely seen running back and forth. I don't know what's on the floor in front of the window, it looks dirty, but it's probably vomit. The most important thing is that the bed doesn't look like it can sleep with people, with clothes scattered and emitting a strange smell. It can be seen how long Dai Yongfeng has been lazy to take care of his residence and how unpopular he is. No servants have come to visit him. Moreover, Huiyuner's mother and son are really not ordinary troubles. A solitary wooden house, with no other buildings nearby except for a small stream where Huiyuhao fished and the mountains and forests. I haven't really seen Huiyuhao's mother and son, there are too many gazes near the firewood house. So, let's investigate the defense situation inside this duke's mansion next. 5 ladybugs flew from the hands of Qianjie towards the outside of the house. The most important thing is to investigate the secret outposts inside the duke's mansion. He committed suicide before completing the mission, and escaping from the duke's mansion was also part of the plan. A duchy cannot be a public restroom that enters and exits casually, let alone a former royal family, a leading general outside, the son-in-law of the current emperor, the Duke of the Empire. All kinds of elements are almost stacked up, okay. Its internal and external defense will only be more than that of Xinhua Imperial City, by no means less. As for what kind of intimate and voluntary abdication? The concept pursued by Qianjie can be used as a reference in the original work, but it cannot be read as a book of fate, because this is a world, a living world. The first principle of survival. Don't treat others like fools. In the original situation, anyone can only choose to voluntarily give way. Oh my, a god is standing in front of you, and you continue to occupy the position of the former royal family without moving. Hurry up and be witty, you can still get a guarantee that your family will not be liquidated. In fact, the relationship between these two families is not much better. Why is the Duke of White Tiger's mansion located 50 miles northwest of Xinhua City, rather than inside Xinhua City? Isn't it clearly better to have political and economic advantages within Xinhua City? Because 50 miles is a very suitable distance, it can prevent one soul master group from being too far away and allowing the other to escape when one wants to harm the other. At the same time, it can also give the attacked party a chance to react and not be completely unaware. In other words, the maximum distance of trust between each other. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Allah Bahuk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Allah Bahuk. Dong 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 dong. There are no lights inside the house, only moonlight seeping in from the window coffin. In such an environment, the sudden knocking on the door sounded like a ghost, interrupting Qianjie's thinking. Under the disguise, Qianjie frowned and could hear that the person knocking on the door was very confident and not in a hurry. The door is not fastened. The drunken man let out a scream and tightened his clothes, feeling unusually cold. The person outside the door was also polite and pushed open the door. The person coming here is a middle-aged woman, and it depends on whether she is dressed as a maid or the type of maid with a high status. It seems you're not a fool, thief. She stopped outside the door, her gaze wandering through the house like a garbage dump, showing an extremely disgusted expression. It can be seen that the hygiene condition in the room is as alarming as in Douluo world, and it is not because people in different worlds have different requirements for hygiene. Being disheveled and having a goddess of unparalleled devotion is pure nonsense. Then she showed an immensely appreciative expression, as the entire room was covered in bloodshot threads. At first glance, it's like encountering sharp objects that are either dead or damaged. The person in the shadow did not respond, and their breathing was almost disappearing. It's best not to answer anything at this time. You are all from the Duke's mansion, are you dignified yourself, or should I help you be dignified? Looking up again, the cold blue light had already shone into the shadows. The radiance belonging to the martial soul and soul ring. Yellow yellow purple purple black black, a dagger with a chill. The 6-ring soul emperor, as for whether it is a sensitive attack or a control type, Qianjie is not sure. They all make a living at the Duke's mansion. Can you discuss letting me go? I've never been here before, and even Auntie, you haven't seen me before. Dai Yongfeng walked out of the shadow, grinning with his white teeth reflecting the light of his martial soul. The great soul master fights against the soul emperor. He doesn't have the surname Tang and doesn't have such a strong protagonist aura. No, we've already killed a lot, you're not the only one. Your colleagues are all waiting for you in the underworld. If you just go back like this, it won't be easy for you to submit your mission to the Duke, will it? After speaking, the 2nd and 5th soul rings on the maid's body had already lit up. A rich mist filled the small room, and the figure of the maid had disappeared. Soon she came out again. Because Qianjie opened his clothes, there were 2 round, blue glowing things hanging there. As the Duchess's personal maid, she still knows things that she should know, such as the things hanging from Qianjie's body. Install soul-guided bombs. The level is still unclear, but it is definitely not easy for someone who can sneak into the Duke's mansion to hang it on their body. These are 2 level 8 fixed soul-guided bombs. However, it doesn't matter, Qianjie immediately answered. He has always believed that the customized soul-guided bomb is the greatest invention of the Sun and Moon Empire. It can make all beings equal, and an ordinary person can also threaten a towering soul Douluo as long as they have it. So he has always been enthusiastic about collecting customized soul-guided bombs and likes to carry a few with him. Everything is negotiable, aren't you leaving? The maid wisely put away her martial soul and raised her hands. She doesn't know if the level 8 fixed soul-guided bomb can blow up the Duke's mansion, but it will definitely blow her up, and she definitely won't have time to run. No, since you've already arrived, leaving so easily would be too embarrassing, Qianjie grinned. I need a wound, but it's not good if I accidentally let the fixed bomb explode, so Auntie, you can do it yourself. Don't go too far, I'm not afraid of death, and the Duke's mansion doesn't mind killing a group of people. The maid's face instantly darkened. The martial soul is full of wonders, who knows what consequences a wound can cause. Auntie, do you want to take a gamble? Do I dare to detonate it? The soul power light dotted on Qianjie's fingers slowly approached the fixed soul-guided bomb, and the maid's eyes became increasingly gloomy. Qianjie has been laughing all along. Bang! The cold wind blew by, and the maid standing in front of the door suddenly shook, like a frightened rabbit. At this moment, she suddenly realized that her body was covered in cold sweat. I can let you leave the Duke's mansion without mentioning any other conditions, after all, you don't have the determination to die, do you? After organizing her mind, the maid turned her indifferent gaze back to the smiling Dai Yongfeng inside the room. A soul master who is a martyr, carrying 2 level 8 fixed soul-guided bombs, just to enter the White Tiger Duke's mansion and hear a sound. Leaving aside whether the person in front of me has the intention to die, the 2 level 8 fixed soul-guided bombs are just to listen, so the investment and gain are not directly proportional. The Death Warrior is not such a consumption method. She didn't have the determination to die herself, not afraid of death and wanting to die were not the same thing. Why would she want to die if she could live? Dai Yongfeng didn't really want to die, he buttoned his clothes again, and the old god sat back in the chair. I certainly don't have the determination to die, but Auntie, do you want to look back? The explosion doesn't come from us, where does it come from? He was bound with 2 fixed soul-guided bombs just to enter the Duke's mansion and shout Allah Bahuk. He wasn't that bored yet. The maid was stunned, yes, the explosion couldn't be fake. Then she suddenly turned back to look. It's gone, it's gone. There are assassins. A small area within the Duke's mansion was ablaze with flames, and cries were heard incessantly. Qianjie put on his clothes again and accidentally dropped 2 bombs on the roadside, which is very reasonable. No matter how kind you are to tell Auntie, I still have a helper outside. He has quite a few fixed soul-guided bombs in his hand, even a level 9 one. I made an agreement with him that as long as the token I left by his side disappears, it will not be a blazing flame bomb. He will immediately detonate several level 8 fixed soul-guided bombs outside the Starry Palace and in a corner of the Duke's mansion that I accidentally threw. It's just a few explosions, the Star Luo Empire can afford it. The maid turned her head, her face full of frost and killing intent. The Star Luo Empire has vast territory, abundant resources, and a large population. Of course, it can withstand 2 explosions. Dai Yongfeng squinted his eyes, like a venomous snake. But I don't know if the White Tiger Duke's mansion and the Star Luo imperial family can afford this explosion. Mom, what's going on? A blue-haired child, who looked about the size of 1,000 kulpas, was curiously listening to the noisy sounds inside the Duke's mansion outside the wooden house behind a servant area. Mom is not sure, go back to sleep quickly. The blonde woman, who was working hard to chop firewood, put down her axe and walked up to the child, gently patting his head. Okay, the child helplessly turned around and walked back to the firewood shed. The blonde woman gently gazed at the child until the child walked into the room and the lights went out. Go check what happened, she frowned as if muttering to herself. Yes, a timely response came from behind her in the darkness. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Prey and hunters can be switched at any time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Prey and hunters can be switched at any time. The Duke's mansion is very chaotic, and the political power within the Xinhua Emperor is also very chaotic. There are two forces, one was once a royal family, and the other is now a royal family. How did the Dai family lose the throne of the Star Luo Empire in the first place? The official statement of the Star Luo Empire is that at that time, the Dai family emperor voluntarily abdicated due to the defeat in the war between the Star Luo and the Sun and Moon Empire, feeling ashamed. It's not without this possibility, but those who believe in this statement are probably only people from Xinhua. The claims of other forces were that due to unfavorable war with the Sun and Moon Empire, they were seized by the Su family of the Star Crown and forced out of the throne. This statement is slightly more credible, but it is also a joke that makes Qianjie a bit nervous. How strong was the Su family in Xinguan at that time to drive out the Dai family, who had a divine ancestor and had been wearing the same pants as Shrek, from the throne? You should know that although the Dai family may not have entered Shrek for generations as clan leaders, there will always be a white tiger martial soul in Shrek's inner courtyard, and they are all white tiger martial souls from the main lineage. And Qianjie obtained a third version from the imperial palace of the Sun and Moon Empire. The change of surname of the Star Luo royal family, which had no relationship with Sun and Moon half a penny, but rather had a significant relationship with Shrek and a certain sect. At that time, the title Douluo, who possessed the white tiger martial soul, was killed by a hammer in the Star Luo city. Then, the Su family of Xinguan ascended to power. As for why a certain sect suddenly wanted to manipulate the Dai family, there is no record of the Sun and Moon, but who knows why they went crazy. But as a traveler, Qianjie roughly guessed the reason. It can only be said that there is a process from being the boss to calling him by his first name. Look at how well behaved the Seven Treasures Glass sect is. Not only has they always been the martial soul of the Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda, but they have also been hiding in the Seven Treasures City without daring to act. They are not even the richest person in the world. Of course, the past cannot be traced, and what is lost is no longer important. What is important now is how to retrieve it. Perhaps Dai Hao and Su Jiawei are really close as brothers, with no gap between them, but the people below them are not, their people are not. Have you not seen the incident between Zhao Kuanyin and Li Erfeng? And between these two forces sitting on the powder barrel, suddenly their own families were all equipped with level 9 soul-guided bombs, causing a earth-shattering explosion instead of the small explosion just now. What would be their reaction? Internal bucket. Shake hands and talk together to find the culprit. Qianjie didn't know, but looking at the expression on the maid's face, she understood the meaning behind Qianjie's words and also understood the consequences if it really happened. Of course, Auntie, you can either not believe it or quickly send someone to Xinhua City to communicate with Xinguan Su's family and find my companion together. But by then, my companions will probably explode all the bombs at any house due to anger, and I can't say which one it is. The maid's face was unpredictable. Are you gambling? No, this is not her life, it's the Star Luo civil war, it's the disappearance of a family between two families, and she's not qualified to gamble as a maid. The light of the martial soul shone again, but this time it swiped towards the maid's own arm. At the moment when a butterfly appeared on the wound, it turned into several drops of blood and entered the wound. Is this how you use your martial soul? Forgive me for being blunt, I'm afraid it doesn't pose a threat to me. The maid gazed at the wound on her arm, her tone mocking. There are liquid martial souls similar to blood on the continent, and the way in which soul power enters the enemy's body and destroys the enemy's internal damage is not unimaginable. But no one does this, because when an unfamiliar soul power enters the body, a normal soul master will react and adjust the collective soul power to expel the unfamiliar soul power in an instant. Why don't you try, Auntie? Qianjie spread out his hand. The maid's face remained gloomy, and she did not feel any strange soul power in her body. This is the true way to use the hidden breath of the dream butterfly soul bone, which is extremely suitable for 1,000 tribulations. By the way, I think it's necessary to tell Auntie about the effect of my second soul skill. It is a soul skill that absorbs energy from the surrounding environment with a drop of blood and then detonates with my thoughts. I call it a blood explosion, and its explosive power depends on how much soul power or heaven and earth energy it absorbs. Of course, the speed at which it absorbs energy is actually very slow. Auntie, you don't need to worry for now. By the way, let me tell you, there are a total of 3 drops of blood entering your body. Can you guess where exactly it is? What exactly is your purpose? On the way to the Duchess' yard, the maid walking in front suddenly turned her head and asked. At this point, the fool also realized that the person who infiltrated the Duke's mansion had little to do with Duke Dai Hao of the White Tiger. There are fixed soul-guided bombs in the Duke's mansion, and Dai Hao also has them, but they will not casually carry them around or even prepare to bomb their own homes. They will not even use them openly. On the one hand, it's difficult to get this thing, and on the other hand, a certain sect and Shrek don't really like soul guides. What's wrong with the White Tiger family using soul guides? Last time I hammered the White Tiger to death and was granted the title, but this time it's possible that the target of that hammer is the Duke's mansion. It's better to be obedient. Let's talk after meeting your Duchess. Qianjie shook his head. And can you use your true face? I'm not used to this face, I promise no one will do anything to you. The maid's disappointed expression remained unabashed and she made another request. Qianjie did not hesitate about identity disguise and cancelled the disguise. So it's a little kid. Is there a necessary connection between ability and age, and are you sure this is what I truly look like? We have at least seen through your disguise Dai Yongfeng. The maid could hear the hidden meaning in the 1,000 calamities words. Lurking in a different image. After all, the disguise ability of Qianjie cannot be distinguished by soul power and eyes alone, and the maid can still be aware of this. Auntie, are you sure? Qianjie looked meaningfully at the maid. The identities of prey and hunter can be changed at any time. The technique of the bait you placed is not very sophisticated. The Holy Spirit sect has been carrying out the mission of assassinating Huiyuner for nearly 3 years, and there is no such good social status in the Duke's mansion. How could it be left to Qianjie? Other Holy Spirit cult evil soul masters are not foolish, and the method of disguised lurking cannot be used only by Qianjie. Disguise yourself as a member of the Duke's mansion and approach Huiyuner's mother and son. This method has long been used by the deceased Holy Spirit cult soul masters. Then they used their lives to uncover intelligence. Huiyuner and her son were in a specially designed cold palace, not everyone could come into contact with them. The 1,000 calamities did not serve as a sacrifice for themselves, paving the way for the later Holy Spirit cult's evil soul masters. Disguising himself as Dai Yongfeng does not allow him to approach Huiyuner's mother and son, as Dai Yongfeng is not qualified. But by disguising Dai Yongfeng and approaching people who are qualified to enter the cold palace, such as the Duchess, it is not that difficult. As for how to approach, Qianjie has already done a good demonstration. Why can one still observe the soul skills of Qianjie, who has a dream butterfly soul bone? Intentionally. Dai Yongfeng is not only a bait used by the Duke's mansion to catch outsiders, but also a bait used by Qianjie to catch people with status within the Duke's mansion. Some are too rough, but useful. Qianjie never thought of squatting for a few years and slowly killing after disguising himself, and he didn't spend so much time in this duchy because his work was very busy. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Retired to Advanced. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Retired to Advanced. Auntie, you asked me a question and made a request. May I ask a question? Qianjie withdrew his thoughts and spoke up to awaken the maid who had stopped walking in confusion. Ask me. The maid looked at Qianjie with caution, and the cliches were mutual. Why do you think I am Duke Dai Hao's person? It's okay if I can't answer. Qianjie is really curious about this question. Could it be that the first senior of the Holy Spirit sect who died in this mission intentionally misled the Duke's mansion? And later on, the Holy Spirit cult's evil soul masters who were executing missions were also tacitly deepening this misunderstanding. But with the style of treating colleagues within the Holy Spirit Church, it's 100% impossible. If we don't leave a pit for future generations, even if they wake up before they die, Qianjie has a say in this matter. Of course, this beautiful misunderstanding is best to continue, so Qianjie only mentioned himself, not his predecessors. The maid breathed a sigh of relief. This is something that some people of some status in the entire duchy know, and it doesn't matter if I answer you. Since his expedition, the Duke has been sending people to contact Hui Yuner and her son. After entering the Duke's mansion, you immediately used your soul skills to understand Hui Yuner's attempt to understand her mother and son's situation, so I misjudged. Qianjie fell silent. It seems that the other party has confused the Holy Spirit cult evil soul master with the people sent by Dai Hao. That's not right. Hasn't Dai Hao never taken care of Hui Yuner's mother and son since he went on a military expedition? At most, after Hui Yuner's death, he would come back and renovate the tomb. If it is true as the maid said, since Dai Hao will always send people to contact him, it indicates that he knows the existence of Hui Yuhao's mother and son. Later, why did Dai Hao completely not know Hui Yuhao, and even forget that he once had such a son? Can't Dai Hao lose his memory after being hammered by Tang Sanyi? After losing his memory, he asked Hui Yuhao to recognize his father again. Is he too idle? It is not without this possibility. After all, the brain circuits of a certain divine king in the original work cannot be called brain circuits. It is more appropriate to call it a composting place. Qianjie threw out the chaotic thoughts in his mind. The original work can only serve as a reference. This is his profound understanding over the past 9 years. If everything were to follow the original work, then the world could not exist. There are too many conflicts, and even the underlying logic of the world is conflicting with each other. Here you are, you can still turn your head and leave the Duke's mansion in time. In front of the luxurious palace-like building, the maid turned her head to look at Qianjie and gave a final warning. Qianjie remained silent, his fingers moved, and the maid walked into the building. Under the moonlight, a blood-colored thread faintly appeared. First, let's talk about your purpose. As long as it's not too outrageous, our palace can take charge and help you complete it. If it's too outrageous, we still advise you to leave the Duke's mansion now. In the study, the Duchess is reading a book. When someone entered, there was no need to say anything to the maid. Looking at the wound on the maid's hand and 1,000 tribulations that followed, combined with the Duke's mansion riot reported by the servants just now, the Duchess realized something and spoke up on her own. I want to get close to Hui Yuner's mother and son. Qianjie bowed slightly. Since they give face like this, they should also give face to the other party themselves. Arriving at someone right away does not bring any benefits. The Duchess was surprised for a moment and looked up and down at Qianjie. Unfortunately, you'd better go back. I can't do it in this palace. Madam, don't worry, I'm not trying to do anything, I'm trying to kill Hui Yuner and her son. A Duchess, now the nominal ruler of the White Tiger Duke's mansion, may not be able to kill a single Hui Yuner, but she can't even get anyone close to Hui Yuner and her son. She's just joking. If it really can't be done, how did Hui Yuner and her son get into the firewood room? You're an outsider, I don't know, it's normal, but this palace really can't do anything about it. The Duchess continued to look at the 1,000 tribulations and finally waved her hand, gesturing for the maid to leave the study. It can be seen that she is very confident and not afraid of being assassinated by Qianjie after the maid leaves. A person from the star-crowned Su family, their strength is definitely not too low. Can you get close to Hui Yuner's mother and son? It doesn't matter what I say, Hui Yuner will do it himself, so I can't help you. Qianjie was stunned for a moment. Hui Yuner is so powerful. Will such a powerful person make their mother and son miserable? Seeing the expression on Qianjie's face, the Duchess showed a hint of displeasure. The situation of that despicable person is indeed easily misunderstood by outsiders, but I can clearly tell you that the firewood house was not chosen by me for that despicable person, but by her own choice. Unless I really tear my face apart, there's nothing I can do about her. After speaking, the Duchess lowered her head again and looked at the book in her hand. Qianjie's gaze also turned to the book, which had already turned yellow and had some curly edges. The holder should have frequently flipped through it. The name is Shrek's Seven Monsters. On the title page of the book, there is also a gilded flower pattern, which is a hardcover version. Well, it doesn't matter what book to read. The popular books on Douluo continent today all sing praises of Shrek from thousands of years ago in a different way, and even Qianjie has read some of them. The evaluation is that it is even more outrageous than the original work of a previous life. The patience and kindness of this palace are limited. Have you taken yourself too seriously, unknown thief? As Qianjie had not yet left, the Duchess put down her book with a hint of anger in her eyebrows. She can temporarily compromise on some less important matters due to the life of the maid who accompanies her day and night, but she really thinks that holding on to the maid's life can force her. The Xinhua family is a well-known auxiliary martial soul in the world, but it does not necessarily mean that they are kind-hearted. Madam, I'm just a great soul master. How about you ask a great soul master how he manages to control a soul emperor? Qianjie is tired, he doesn't want to say anything, nor does he want to pull open his clothes and perform a set of a la Bahuk. The Duchess was stunned for a moment and looked at the Thousand Tribulations again. A child who appears to be around 10 years old, about the same age as her second son Dai Huabin, cannot be distinguished by appearance alone. Not all soul masters in this world can grow into dragons and phoenixes, without dwarfs or the means of disguising their faces. So she initially believed that Qianjie had subdued her personal maid through her strength, and even those with too low strength dared not sneak into the Duke's mansion, this dragon's den, right? This young hero is underestimated by our palace. A great soul master dares to enter the Duke's mansion and even come to our palace. Recruit the maid into the study again, and after the maid whispers, the Duchess changes her attitude to face the Thousand Tribulations. At least Qianjie has a seat now, and his title has changed from petty thief to young hero. Tie 2 level 8 fixed soul guided bombs on your body, and there is a companion holding level 9 soul guided bombs outside. With this wealth, you are definitely not a wild soul master on the roadside. End of this chapter.